Cookies. Cookies. Welcome, friends, to Technology Blows, the one and only techno-pessimist podcast hosted by Dan Sliman, which is me. But you already know that if you've listened to part one of this two-part episode on cookies, which you probably should, because you're not going to understand what cookies are if you don't go listen to part one. So please do that, and you get to spend another whole hour with me and CJ here. This is my guest and friend CJ Horton. CJ, thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me back. Though I admit it would be kind of weird to have me on like only one part of the two-part episode. That would feel very pointed if I was replaced halfway. Get
the new person be like, fucking keep up. The last guest knew all about RFC 2109.
No time to tell you any of the background here. We just got to dive right into it.
Yeah, so just to refresh your memory, in case you haven't it's been a while since you listened to episode one, cookies are the web protocol that lets Mark Zuckerberg see into your very dreams and even become part of them. That's right. If Mark Zuckerberg has ever shown up in your dreams in like a sexy Batman costume, that was because of cookies, and certainly not anything else going on with you that you might need to examine about your mental state. That was cookies. CJ, have you ever worked in ad tech?
No, thankfully. Mostly limited my exposure to that part of the industry to like working with the fallout of occasionally having to put the tracking cookies into a website, but
Yep.
not controlling how they work.
Same. I've never worked in the actual industry, thank God. But I've worked at like marketing, digital marketing companies where there's this constant arms race between you and your customers who want to do increasingly more unethical things on your platform, which is great. Really fun job.
I've been party to some back and forth between, like, we want to understand what our users are doing, but our users don't want to let us track them. For some reason, they keep blocking we were using like an out-of-the-box click tracking type thing, which is blocked by a lot of ad blockers because, it's click tracking.
As it should be.
Right. Totally understandable, but we were losing. We learned through this process that approximately 25% of our users used an ad blocker because that was the 25% that we didn't know anything about.
25%, that's pretty good. I mean, good for them. Some very fun and interesting engineering goes on when you're trying to circumvent privacy protections, but it's too bad that is there are incentives for people to do that. When I worked at a company where we were trying to get past spam filters, so I don't remember if we ever actually implemented this, but sometimes the spam lists would create like a honeypot email address that would actually go to their server, and then you'd get in trouble for sending email to that address because it didn't sign up for your list, and they send you back like a partially obfuscated copy of the email that you sent them to prove that you sent to their, they'll be like, here's the text of the emails you sent, but they'll redact some of the headers. But we were tasked with trying to figure out, is there some way that we can encode like the ID of the email that we're sending into the order of the headers so that you can pull it back out from the order that the headers are in when they get sent back to you as a copy, right?
That's pretty sneaky.
Pretty sneaky. Yeah, but I've never worked directly in ad tech. I did interview at an ad tech company, I think in 2010, 2011. I was pretty burnt out on the job I was just describing to you, but I don't think I realized why, and I don't think I realized like what was causing me to burn out. So I was applying for a bunch of jobs. I was just like burnt out and depressed, and I was like, oh, I'll apply for all these jobs locally. I was also commuting over an hour from Worcester into Boston, an hour each way. So I was like, well, let's see if I can get something local. And this was kind of my first experience being burnt out at a job. So I overreacted and I was applying to all sorts of companies, as long as they were close to where I lived. And so I get an interview. I put on my exactly one ill-fitting suit that, as a software professional, I felt obligated to own.
Yeah,
And
what?
yeah, I have one. I have exactly one suit. How many suits do you have,
I have
CJ?
zero suits.
Yeah, okay. Well, good for you. Uh, I got one and it looks bad, but you never know. You never know what the attitudes of the person interviewing you are going to be about suits. So I put it on and I drive out to this sad gray office park and on the outskirts of Worcester. I think the address was on like Computer Boulevard or some shit. And it's an ad tech startup, which should have been the first red flag. But like I said, I'm very depressed. So they kick off the interview with what's basically an IQ test. Look at this diagram. Count. Have you ever had an interview where you're like basically like, count how many squares are in this picture, figure out the next number in this pattern to see how smart you are?
Yes,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know how well I did. They didn't tell me, but apparently I passed that part because they brought me on to the next part, which was mostly like LEET code questions. So LEET code, listeners, is a thing where in coding where they write like a series of 16 punctuation marks on the whiteboard, and they say like, this is a command in a programming language called bash. Like, what does this command do? And you have to try to like figure out what this obfuscated code does.
Fun times. Also kind of like basically an IQ test. But
Yeah, very similar vibe. Yeah, they want you to be, it's very funny because they want you to be like the smartest possible person, and yet problems they give you they actually want you to solve at the company are like brain dead bullshit. It first like plug this cable into this other server shit. You don't need to be it anyway. So finally, they send me into this conference room to be interviewed by another guy, and this guy doesn't even seem to have been told he was going to be interviewing anyone today. So we basically just shoot the shit for half an hour, and he tells me, this guy says, like, I do a lot of web development work, and I market myself as the green web developer, right? So I try to find companies that'll hire me because I have experience with environmentally friendly development techniques that use less power, have a lower carbon footprint. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. That sounds cool. What kind of eco-friendly techniques do you use? And he goes, what? Oh, no, I don't actually have any green web development techniques. That's just how I market myself. It works great. Like, I get hired all the time.
oh man. I did have when you started when you mentioned the green web developer, for some reason my mind went, instead of too eco-friendly to more of like a Power Rangers situation. Like, this is the green web developer, but my fellow web developers are the blue web developer and the yellow.
Yeah, I got my
Uh,
ass kicked by the pink web developer. Uh, That's yeah. I specialize in situations where you need to write code to defeat a giant monster that's been made giant by an evil wizard. Uh, it's really fun work.
it's a really good time. A lot of pressure, but you get the payoff of having defeated an evil
Yeah,
robot.
you do have to be on call sometimes. You got to suit up and then go boopity boopity boop at a keyboard,
Yeah,
kill a
for some
giant
reason you
squid or
have to
some
suit
shit.
up to go code.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Otherwise, coding can be pretty dangerous. Anyway, ultimately, I did not get hired by this company. They replied to me saying I didn't show enough passion, was the phrase that they used. So I think I kind of dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, passion for false marketing for
Yeah, passion for advertising. If you have a passion for advertising, I think the state should just subsidize your life so you don't have to work. If you love advertising, you should just not have a job. Anyway, so let's get back to these mouth-watering, freshly baked cookies that hold up so
delicious.
much of the World Wide Web, just like grandma's cookies used to do. So last week we wrapped up by talking about RFC 2964 from the year 2000, which was published by the Internet Engineering Task Force, right? And this was a follow up to their earlier cookie spec. And it stated that in no uncertain terms, all caps, the cookies must not be used to leak information about the user or the user's browsing habits to third parties without the user's explicit consent. Must not do that. And as we all know, that was the end of it. Isn't it crazy that it's been like 25 years since cookies were last used to leak our browsing data to third parties?
Yeah, it's so nice that, we don't have to worry about
It feels like just
this day.
yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, I'm
It's there
browsing
for
all day. Nobody knows. Nobody knows who I am.
for just a moment at the dawn of the internet, and then
Yeah.
quickly legislated away. Bullet
Nip that one
dodged.
in the bud.
Um,
No, of course. As usual, nobody paid any attention to the IETF, and everyone just kept on doing what they were doing, and things got worse and worse. So in 2008, search giant Google purchased the ad platform DoubleClick for a cool 3.1 billion smackaroonies. And in 2009, the year after, Google bought a mobile ad platform called AdMob for another 750 million smackaroonies. And I read the press release about this AdMob, or their various press releases about this AdMob acquisition. Google was focusing mainly on the benefits to developers, publishers, and advertisers were the main ones going to benefit from this acquisition. But at the end of every article, they'd say something like, last but certainly not least, we believe users will benefit from this deal through more mobile content and through better mobile ads that deliver useful information. And that's good for all of us. That is just like, fuck off. Leave me out of it. I understand. I know why you're doing this. Like, you don't
have to dress it up. Don't have to
Right.
pretend that there's a noble motive here.
Right. Yeah. It's fine. I'm gonna use the websites anyway. I can't not use the websites. Just like be honest about what you're doing.
I wonder if there is somebody who was responsible for writing that language who actually like believes it on some level. Like we are trying to do what's best for users.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
if you're close enough to the problem, it kind of makes sense to say. But then the problem is like doing targeted ads doesn't mean that the targeted ads have a better yield. People are more likely to click on them, right? But doing target ads doesn't mean you now get to do fewer ads, right? It's not like, oh, we can reach the people we need to reach better, so now we don't have to have as many ads because the ones that we do show count, right? It's like, well, we're going to show the same or more amount of ads and get that much more money for them. That's marketing.
That's marketing, and that's also the pressures of capital at work.
Right. Right.
What if we could do more and get more money, even if it makes everything worse?
Yeah, more money, you say?
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm all ears. But of course, if anybody wants to advertise on this podcast, please let me know. I'll target the shit out. I'll email all my 50 listeners directly and tell them to buy your product if you want to pay me for that.
And that's real targeted advertising. Oh.
That's right.
Oh.
I'll ingratiate myself with them and become part of their lives, so I know more about them, so that I can target ads to them.
You listen to all of their podcasts,
Yeah,
so that you can successfully.
Right. Yeah, so by 2009, Google was well on its way to becoming an ad tech monopolist, which a court did rule that it was later. So I'm not just editorializing there. But in the meantime, web surfers like you and me are getting wise to the role of cookies and the continual degradation of their privacy, and many of them start using ad blockers. The first ad blocker to be released was AdBlock Plus for Firefox, which came to market in 2002. And they became super, super popular. Did you use it?
Vaguely. I definitely remember using Firefox somewhere in that vicinity of time, specifically for the ad blocking capabilities. But I don't really remember many details beyond that.
It was good. It was great. Well, they do a lot of things. Ad blockers do a lot of things, like not show you the images to prevent the website from blocking access if you don't have the ads loading, and then they'll also, some of them will intercept the request that your browser is making to the ad domain, so that you don't even make the request and they can't give you a cookie, right? Which is cool.
It's like an arms race.
It is. Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh.
Marketing is like the definition of an arms race. It's like nobody would have to spend so much money on it if everybody else wasn't spending so much money on it.
Yeah, yeah. And especially the part where it's like, how can we, if we can like circumvent, a little bit of a few users' ad blockers for a few days, that translates to enough money
That it's totally worth it. Yep.
that it's completely worth it, which is an insane set of incentives.
So we got ad blockers. Ad blockers are good. I'm pro ad blocker. And by 2009, around 20 million devices have an ad blocker installed, which is still not that many. There are a lot more devices than that browsing the internet. But hey, it at least shows that these ideas about privacy are becoming part of the public discourse. 20 million is enough that they can't all be like privacy nerds. These, like, a lot of these have to be normal people who would just prefer not to see ads. So that's good. And also there was a lot of new browser features, like core browser features developed that are privacy related. But the browsers all have different approaches to cookie management, and universally, or almost universally, the default is still to accept third-party cookies. Which it flies in the face of the IETF's recommendation that the third-party cookies should be disabled by default. And the IETF doesn't have, police to go around enforcing their RFCs. If they did have police, they'd probably spend all their time at the precinct having long arguments over what crime means, and
Is this? I feel like this is the real backstory of the web developer Power Rangers group. They just go around enforcing IETF.
Yeah. That QR code isn't exactly the right shape. How?
Bam.
I guess that's the IEEE, not IETF, but you get it. Yeah, I would read that comic book.
Be a very niche audience, but I
yeah,
think
but
well.
sure. But that's great. Right in my wheelhouse. So what exactly do the ad networks do with these sophisticated user profiles, right? What's the alchemical process by which your love for, painting or Hitchcock films or Mexican hairless dogs gets transmuted into profit for Google? So the main thing that happens is a thing called real-time bidding, or RTB for short. This is a way that publishers, so for example, like newspapers, websites, sell off empty rectangles on their web pages that in real time to advertisers. So as you're loading the page, there's like a little micro auction that happens where those rectangles that you're about to load get sold to advertisers to put their ads in. It took them a while to build, because it's like pretty complicated, pretty difficult stuff to build, to be able to have this whole auction happen in time for you to load the page, right? But that's what has come to exist over the last 10 years or so, since until 2009 or so.
Also, for the page to not turn into a nightmare of well, this happens a lot anyway, but
I don't know about
most of the time
nightmare.
it mostly sort of works, as in like the page still renders, and like the layout is not like completely demolished by the ads.
Totally.
Oh.
But they built that. They've had to build that into it too. It's a serious infrastructure, and so it has a lot of steps. But it's worth understanding. So I'm gonna run through it. Try to bear with me here. It's pretty complicated, okay? But I know you got it, CJ. You'll stay with me. Okay, so I'm browsing the web, and I see a link to an article on my favorite website, golfpervert.com, the #1 place on the web for perverts who love golf. And of course I click on the link because, like, oh my God, I just love golf. and also other reasons. So my browser connects to golfpervert.com and requests the page, and now golfpervert happens to have an empty rectangle on the top of its webpage that it's about to send me. This empty rectangle just sitting there, burning a hole in its pocket, taking up space. And so they could just like not put it there, but it's on the page. They got to fill it up with something. So before they show me this article, golfpervert.com now runs some JavaScript on their web page. That's sort of that's part of what's called a supply side platform. This JavaScript, it's a software development kit that gets installed into the web page, and it's part of an SSP, or a supply side platform product. Supply side meaning supply of empty rectangles, right? So like the publisher has the supply of empty rectangles to sell to advertisers. So that's why it's supply side platform. Strange way to think about it, but that's how they think about it. Google owns several of these companies, these SSPs, including AdMob, the one we mentioned earlier, which is by far the one with the biggest market share. But there's a whole ecosystem of these things. Verizon has one, Amazon has one. Anyway, so the SSP gathers all the information it can from my web request, and it sends it off to a server to figure out who I am. So I have such and such cookie, and I have such and such an IP address, and I'm using such and such a browser. Maybe I'm on my smartphone, so I can get my location data from my smartphone, right? And then the SSP plugs this all into their database, and they go like, this is Dan Sliman. Let's see. He's American. He likes Christian rock. He's into leprechaun statuettes. He's recently been comparison shopping for electric scooters. They know all this stuff about me because if they've been watching my web traffic.
Yeah, I learned that you love leprechaun statuettes. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I had to take them out of my Zoom background because they were creeping people out. But they're all, trust me, they're right here under the camera. I got them facing, they're all staring at me while I'm delivering this podcast lecture to you.
David Bowie is sort of leprechaun-esque.
He's that's right. That's what they call him.
Leprechaun
They call him
adjacent.
the musical leprechaun. Okay, all right. So it knows everything. So the SSP knows who I am, and they this is great. And they send that information to a thing called an ad exchange. So an ad exchange is a different kind of company that holds the auctions. They're the ones that actually like run the auction for my attention, and they don't actually buy or sell ads themselves. They're just
Naturally.
facilitating the purchase of rectangles.
Rectangle facilitators.
Yes. Yeah, they're rectangle brokers.
So they don't actually control the ads themselves or the process of selling, or like the actual content of the ads. They're purely so what information do they actually get? Do they like this? There's this size rectangle, and
yeah. So the SSP says we're selling a rectangle of these dimensions on and we're selling it to a person loading this website, and here's what we know about that person. So like, does anybody want to bid for this page load to show a person an ad on this page, this person an ad of yours on this page load? Google owns one of these also. It's called AdX, and that accounts for about 66% of the market share in this business. Google's like, they're basically the entire web ad industry or close to it.
Funny, I recognize the names of most of the companies you've mentioned purely because I do enough like poking around in like my browser's dev tools that I see like the URLs that the the trackers are requesting, and so I'm like, oh, double click .net. That's a familiar one. I've seen requests to that one go by.
You're gonna have to do a TikTok about the guy that started DoubleClick because he's a real piece of work. But I had him in the script initially, but I took him out because I didn't have time. I gotta talk about these fucking cookies.
Oh man, another time.
Another time. Just little quick fact about him. He once bragged in an interview that he called in a fake fire alarm. It was either a fire alarm or a gas alarm to his office to as like a prank.
Just
We
for
thought that'd be
fun.
fun, just for fun.
Just
Yeah,
for funsies.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very specific personality type. Oh.
Probably a really fun boss. So the ad exchange, so right, the SSP sends to the ad exchange. The ad exchange sets up an auction for the right to fill this empty rectangle at the top of golfpervert.com that my browser is still waiting to load because all this is still happening within like dozens of milliseconds. And the participants, the people who are trying to buy the rectangle, are companies called demand side platforms, or DSPs. Demand for rectangles, right? So these are companies with names like Quantcast, AdRoll, AdLib. They represent the advertisers that want to fill that rectangle with their crap. So maybe Quantcast, I'm loading this page. Maybe Quantcast bids 1/100th of a cent to show me an ad for a new electric scooter that blasts DC Talk songs while I'm riding. And AdLib bids 2/100ths of a cent to show me an ad for a new collection of Leprechaun figurines. And so after some number of milliseconds, the ad exchange closes the auction and they accept one of the bids. And the ad exchange then replies to the supply side platform saying, okay, here's the URL of the ad that goes in the rectangle. Golf Pervert drops that link in the page, and finally my article loads. And that's the end of it. No, it's not, because there's yet another party involved, which is called the ad server. This is what DoubleClick mainly is, I think. So the ad server's job is to actually serve me the image of the ad, the image of a leprechaun riding an electric scooter or whatever it is. And so my browser now has to make yet another request, this time to DoubleClick, to fetch the image. And DoubleClick will also take some of my headers because, it's previously given me a cookie, and it forwards those headers to the ad exchange to prove that I loaded the ad and, laid eyes on the little mischievous green elf guy.
So they can deliver their 1/100th of a cent, as promised.
Right. All for a little 1/100th of a cent.
Impressions, I think, is the technical,
Yes.
is the industry term.
Yes, impressions. Each impression is supposed to count for 2 eyes seeing the ad, and they're very serious about their record keeping with the impressions. They really want to know that they're getting those eyes on the crab. So did you get all that? Did you get all that, CJ?
Yeah, so we got so we got our rectangle, our empty rectangle. We've got our supply side something or other that's making a request to an ad broker, which is making a request once it's sort of like, well, I guess I was gonna say the only verb I have here is brokers the request.
Mm-hmm.
Brokers the request and fires it off to an actual ad serving company. It sends back, I presume, the URL to the actual ad, and then your browser requests the actual ad image and shows it to you.
That's right.
It's honestly an impressive amount of infrastructure that all happens very quickly before the page is fully loaded.
It's incredible.
And for evil.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best reason to build this much infrastructure. Saruman wasn't trying to build a fucking hospital, right?
Like, as a person who is interested in software, I find it fascinating.
It's amazing what they realized they needed to do. They were like, oh, we need to build. I mean, it's evolved over all this time, but like they kept realizing over the course of like 15 years we can squeeze a little more out of this by making the infrastructure a little bit more complicated, and also it's a moat of complexity for to prevent other companies from infringing on Google's turf, right? Really cool stuff. And so it's actually not just for advertising, right? So in 2020, the Wall Street Journal reported that since 2017, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, as well as Customs and Border Protection, CBP, have been purchasing licenses from at least one of these companies, and it's many more companies now, from a bunch of these companies that have been using cell phone location data to find people crossing the border so they can arrest and deport them.
Of course.
Of course.
I feel like maybe my memory is faulty, but I feel like around that time is sort of like when Also, when privacy kind of went mainstream, like it was no longer this sort of like fringe interest of like, for a while there, I feel like you were kind of like, if you were somebody who was worried about privacy, you were kind of outing yourself as like a dork.
Yeah. Yeah.
People were like, yeah, so the ad companies know everything about me, but what harm does it really do? And sometime around that time, it started being like, oh, I see. I understand the harm that this is doing.
But nobody
Uh,
will ever abuse that massive library of information about who I am and where I am and what I do all day.
exactly.
Uh,
There's no
yeah.
way. Like, sure, the ad companies know about my unfortunate fondness for leprechaun statuettes, but what can they really do with that information?
Yeah. Yeah. It seems neutral, but no, they'll make it evil. Yeah. So these government agencies that are like horribly immoral are buying location data from all these companies, and but they don't actually need warrants for this because they say an individual has no reasonable expectation of privacy under the Fourth Amendment in information voluntarily disclosed to third parties. Right? You
Man.
gave it up. You gave up your information when you loaded that web page, so it's not protected by the Fourth Amendment. Is the argument?
But the all of the authors of that IETF had
Yeah.
some extremely strong feelings
Cohen Holman
about
must just
that.
read the newspaper every morning, like, hmm, hmm,
Who would have thought? Me, in 1994 or whatever.
yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, sad. So this ridiculously complicated real-time bidding system is what allows Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, to say, as he said in a New York Times op-ed in 2019, quote, Google will never sell any personal information to third parties, and you get to decide how your information is used. Right? Because even though Google makes hundreds of billions of dollars by facilitating all these exchanges, they can say, we're not selling your data. The publishers are selling your data. The exchanges are using it to place the ads. The advertisers are buying the ad space. They're not buying the data. Nobody's selling your data. Come on.
We're not selling your data. We're just using it to sell advertisements.
We're just
It's not
giving
that the
access to
data.
your data to other people for money.
Yeah, for where it's they're not directly buying your data. They're just getting your data as a side effect.
Yeah, right, exactly. Don't worry about it.
Of selling you things. It's fine. It's totally fine.
You want things, right? You've got to have things. Incidentally, this is also the reason why this real-time bidding system is also the reason why sometimes you'll be on a website and you'll go to click a link and the link will move out of the way right when you go to click it.
The most infuriating part of the modern web.
Yes. Yeah, I mean that's saying something.
Huh. Well, now I don't know if that's right. The most infuriating part of the modern web is when you go to click on something and a pop-up happens directly in between like making the
Fucking
motion
hell.
to click something and, and the
And then
actual
you
clicking, so then you click the pop-up instead and the website thinks that you meant to click the pop-up.
Yeah, probably a few times a month I end up like I close my browser and I close my phone in frustration because I accidentally clicked an ad, and then I load up my phone later and the ad's there and I'm like, oh god damn it again. And it'll never get fixed because sometimes it results in you accidentally clicking an ad instead of the link that you wanted to click, and that's good. That's good for the advertisers.
Nobody's
So why
unhappy
would they
about
fix
that.
it?
Exactly.
Yep.
Um,
Um, Now, in 2009, two privacy advocates, fed up with the lack of progress on this cookie exploitation issue, created a simple plugin for Mozilla Firefox that would add a new HTTP header to all your outgoing requests. And that header was called Do Not Track. So the idea of Do Not Track, it was based on the Do Not Call list, which spoilers didn't
Technically
work.
still exists.
so, so maybe you
I
can guess
think.
what's going to happen with Do Not Track. Yeah, no, it does technically still exist. Yeah, but it didn't pan out. But the idea was similar to Do Not Call. If you request a page and you send a Do Not Track header with a value of 1, it means don't collect my data and don't use it to track my activity on the web. And if you send a value of 0, I guess it would mean, yes, please, I do want you to collect my data and use it to track my activity on the web. But I don't know why you would
For
do
some
that.
reason.
I guess if you're testing advertising software, you might want to do that. I don't, yeah, maybe it's for people with some kind of domination kink. I don't know.
Just fuck my shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck me up, fam. So what you got? Yeah, it's silly. Anyway, so this do not track idea, all the browsers started implementing it because it was, first of all, it's easy to do. You can add a header to the browser and make a config variable in your settings. That's trivial to implement. But more importantly, it caught on because it was a way for the browser makers to signal that they care about privacy, right? They couldn't turn off third-party cookies by default, like the RFC says they should do, even if they wanted to, because by 2009 there were lots of like legitimate business models that depended on third-party cookies because you could use third-party cookies. So why wouldn't? So like, for example, if you got a website with articles on it and you want to add a commenting functionality underneath the articles, there are companies that'll be like, yeah, just drop our code into your page and we'll handle all the login. We'll log in the user to make sure they're always the same person and they're logged in when they're commenting. And that involves setting cookies for one domain from a different domain. Stuff like that. Billing, there's like billing systems that use that function, that use third-party cookies that way too. Right. So the browsers couldn't just be like, no third-party cookies, because then all these legitimate business models would fall over. But they could just add the do not track header. That's easy.
It's a really nice way to be able to say like, yes, we are taking action on
Exactly.
this problem of of third-party trackers without actually having to really do anything, which I'm sure was a huge, some of the browser companies actually care about privacy, but
yes, but it enables a company like Google to say we care about your privacy, and
exactly.
that's why we're doing, which if
not
Google
to call
says
out
they care
Chrome.
about your privacy, you know what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, well, we can call out Chrome. I'm using Chrome right now. We'll talk about that.
Shh, I can hear you. Oh.
It probably, I don't know. I don't want to be paranoid, but I do admire paranoia when it comes to privacy, web privacy, because these fuckers will try anything. Now, so of course, at the time that this do not track plugin launched, the do not track header didn't actually do anything because no web server supported it. They could read it and just ignore it, right? But the idea was, if we make this a standard, then support will come. We can create support on the server side later, and it almost looked like it was going to work. So by 2011, the Federal Trade Commission was making noises about turning do not track into a regulatory requirement. They were talking about like, well, this do not track header seems pretty good. So if we can get the authority from Congress to regulate ad tech companies, then we can use this do not track header to force them to not track people with the cookies. The World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C, which is another standards body like the IETF, but they regulate more higher level web type things rather than protocol level, like computers talking to each other things. They're kind of overlapping.
Fight with each other.
Right. Yeah. They sometimes, that's right. Which is always fun for us as developers, software engineers, who are like, will you guys just fucking make up your minds? Yeah. So the W3C forms a working group to define what supporting do not track was going to look like, to answer questions like, how should websites behave if the header's absent, or should people be able to whitelist some domains they're like, these domains are allowed to give me third-party cookies when other ones aren't. How can they measure compliance how can they measure whether servers are actually complying when the header is sent? Things like this. And surprisingly, the ad tech people, for example, Google sends people to the table on this. They want to be in this conversation. Maybe not that surprising. Like they're like, well, we might be regulated by the FTC here, so we should show that we're participating in the conversation, and we want to make sure we don't get like totally hosed on whatever the rules end up being, right? Like
regulate us a little bit less.
Yeah. Or at least we can trick them into regulating us. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is the way you handle getting your industry getting regulated. They didn't want the FTC to set rules like cookies can't be set during unverifiable transactions, or some other, dagger aimed at the heart of our business, right? Uh,
Oh, if only there had actually been a dagger aimed at the heart of their
oh my
business.
God, we need more
Imagine.
daggers aimed at the more hearts of more businesses.
Can I get it? How do I kind of get into that industry? The aiming daggers at the hearts of businesses.
Yeah, sign me up. I'm not really a knife guy, but I'll become a knife guy.
No, dagger specifically.
Yeah,
There's
sorry, you're right. Sorry, you're right. If you're really gonna get into dagging, you're gonna need some daggers. Yeah, so pretty soon, a lot of the working group members are saying, well, it kind of seems like these ad tech people are trying to draw out the negotiations, and they're like going back and forth and trying to make this negotiation last a really long time. Probably because the longer they participate in the negotiations, the more they can go to the media and the government and be like, look how participating in the working group we are. We're taking privacy seriously. Self-regulation is working, right?
we care about our users. We're spending all this time arguing about.
Yes. Just think how much engineering time, how many engineering dollars we're spending just sending our valuable engineers to these meetings. We must really care about privacy. Boy, to be man, imagine you work for Google and where you're just trying to make a protocol to send data from one database to another, and your boss is like, hey, you got to go. We're picking you to go to the World Wide Web Consortium meeting and tell them that Google should regulate itself. That's your job now.
I mean, I feel like that the like attending standards committee meetings does appeal to a certain kind of person.
That's probably true. There's probably lots of them who want to do it.
That actually genuinely enjoy that kind of thing.
So to make matters worse, though, in 2012, Microsoft decides to take an even bigger step than just supporting Do Not Track in Internet Explorer. They say they're going to turn on Do Not Track by default in Internet Explorer. Right?
Big move. Bold move.
Big,
Big and
yeah,
bold.
a bold move, as Kerrigan would say in StarCraft.
This was what year? 2011?
2012.
2012. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's earlier than I would have thought. Oh.
Yeah. So it sounds great, right? It sounds like it would make matters not worse, but that's, of course, and Microsoft wanted everybody to say, oh, that's great, good for Microsoft, right? But what ends up happening is the ad tech companies who had been claiming that their whole justification for coming to the table on Do Not Track was that, oh, this is a way for consumers to express their preferences about being tracked, right? An automatic way to say I do or don't want to be tracked. If you turn it on by default, then it's like Internet Explorer is putting words in its users' mouths, right? It's dictating how users feel about getting tracked. So ultimately, they walk away from the table over this. And instead of improving privacy, Microsoft accidentally just grenades the whole process.
Oh man, there's a negotiation lesson in there somewhere. Like, you ask for a little bit too much, and the other party can. Part of negotiating is keeping the other party at the table.
Right. Right. We don't even. It's like we don't even want to be here. We're right. Like.
We don't care about user privacy. We're here trying to look like we're doing the right thing, but
Yep.
you're just gonna totally undermine our whole business. We're just gonna leave.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Oh, gotta get some of those daggers.
Insufficient daggers is clearly what went wrong.
If you're worried about Google in this process, don't be worried. Everything worked out great for the ad tech industry here, because the FTC never got the authority they needed to regulate them anyway. Because the ad tech people, turns out ad companies are very good at lobbying. Who knew?
Who would have thought?
Right? Because muddying discourse is their whole thing. They're very good at it, and they lobbied like hell and killed this initiative. They said the FTC would become judge, jury, and executioner against their industry. Which, don't threaten me with a good time. That sounds kind of rad.
I mean, I thought the whole dagger image was a little bit over the top, but
yeah, no. There's no such thing as over the top.
This is advertising, I guess. Yeah, there's really
Yeah.
not much that's over the top.
Yeah. So sadly, do not track died on the vine, and eventually all the major browsers removed the do not track header over the next few years. And this is fun. Do you know why the browser's main justification for removing the do not track header? This is interesting.
Is it just because it didn't do anything because none of the ad companies were respecting?
Well, they could just leave it, right? I mean, if it didn't, if it
Oh.
does, if it's neutral, they can just leave it. But the way they what they said is, do not track has three possible values, and different browsers are going to send different values. So this just makes it one more header that the supply side platforms can use to fingerprint your browser and track you with.
So ultimately, contributing to the problem they were trying to solve.
Hmm?
Oh, that's fun.
It's really fun. It's only like 1.5 bits of entropy, right? But why keep it if nobody supports it anyway? It's just extra tracking entropy.
Extra information about that you can use to correlate somebody's activity.
It rules. So meanwhile in 2011, while all this shit with the do not track is going on, the IETF finally walks back its by now totally irrelevant 16-year-old recommendation that browsers disable third-party cookies by default. They publish RFC 6265, which obsoletes the previous one and basically just says browsers can do whatever they want with respect to third-party cookies. That's up to them.
What you do in the privacy of your own browser is between.
Right, right, right. We need to respect the privacy of the browsers.
It's
Uh,
really what's being insulted here is.
yeah, yeah, that's what matters. As an engineer, I care about the feelings of software. You know, I don't want to. They standards are hard. They tried, and especially standards are hard when you have to deal with bad faith actors. Like it's hard enough to have a standard among a group of people who agree that there should be a standard, right?
Yeah, yeah, that are actually engaging in good faith with the process of standard setting. Oh.
Right. Now, most of the time, what we're talking about in these episodes is the effect of cookies on privacy. So, I don't know. Are you somebody who thinks about your online privacy a lot? Are you one of these like VPN people with the special browser and the shit?
I kind of go back and forth. I go through phases where I like try to disable all third-party cookies by default, and then discover that I can't do anything on the web, and then slowly start relaxing it website by website, and then get sick of that, and then I just turn it, and then I turn it off, and then kind of ignore the whole problem for a little while, and then hear something about like how ICE is using ad tracking data to deport people, and then the cycle starts all over again. It's yeah. So I would I guess classify myself as concerned but lazy.
That is the best way to. Man, I was trying to think of a good way to describe my attitude about it, and that's exactly it. I'm gonna steal that, CJ. Uh, yeah, yeah, basically same. I respect the tinfoil hat stuff a lot, but I don't worry about it. I understand that like that it's a matter of privilege for me to be not that concerned about privacy. There are a lot of people out there to whom privacy has like very concrete implications for their health and safety, and so like I recognize the importance of preserving privacy as a society. But personally, I kind of just use Chrome and don't fucking worry about it too much.
Yeah, I'm currently in the phase where I'm using like a weird experimental browser that blocks a bunch of stuff. And which has make kind of makes me feel better about my browsing habits, but now say I want to go just like look at a recipe. I'm searching for recipes for something, and I'm go like clicking around recipe blogs, and half of them won't load because
Yeah, the recipe. I don't know how the
oh.
I should do. I figure out the recipe website story. Like they've become somehow the worst ones. I don't know why it is.
Yeah, I think that's I wonder if it's just that you have a lot of people writing recipe blogs who are not like particularly technologically sophisticated.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
so they just kind of like accept all the recommendations of like whatever platform they're using, which is, trying to skim the maximum amount of money off of their recipe.
And the platform tells them like, hey, if you tell your entire life story in 2,000 words before every recipe, then that's more space on your page where we can show people ads, and they have to scroll through all the ads to look at the ads.
Exactly. And they're going to scroll through the ads and you're going to make more money from your recipes, which is, already not an incredibly profitable
Yeah,
line of
I don't.
work.
Certainly, I don't blame the people writing the recipes for this. I love recipes. Food is delicious.
But it's messed
Um,
up that the only way you can make money from it is from these incredibly predatory schemes to um, harvest user data. Oh.
it sure is messed up, CJ. It sure is. But I think where cookies really come into people's day to day existence more than thinking about privacy issues, uh, this is probably true for people privileged or not, is less that they're a risk to privacy and more that they're like annoying, distracting bullshit that I sometimes have to deal with. Like, for example, I was trying to see if my local library had a particular book about the imperial examination in China. And so I go to my library's website, and first of all, this has nothing to do with cookies, but so on my library's website, you have to enter a username and password to log into the website, and your username is your library card number, which okay, sure, whatever. Your password, and this is what baffles me, your password is the last four digits of your library card number.
Classic.
And you can't change it. You can't change it.
Oh,
Um,
that's a fun twist. I was gonna say that sounds like the a very classic workaround that some poor city IT worker was like, okay, we have to populate username and password, like initial username and passwords for everybody who uses the library. What's it gonna be? Okay, we'll make the username your library card number, and we'll make the password by default, part of your library card number, and then you can change it. But
right.
no.
Nope. Nope. Yeah. I don't even think this should count as like forget two-factor authentication. I don't even think this should count as one factor. To have to both these fields together shouldn't count as even one factor of authentication.
I hope your library is otherwise something I used to work in a public library. I don't know if you know that about me, but
I don't know that. I didn't know that.
one thing that librarians generally are is like very averse to collecting information about their
Hmm.
users. Like the library I worked at didn't even our software didn't even like keep any records of the books that you had checked out unless you like specifically opted in to allowing us to keep track of the books you had, because librarians are like super concerned about free speech, and if you the less information that you have about somebody, the less that you can be made to reveal in a lawsuit.
Absolutely.
So hopefully your librarians are also ethical purists in that area.
As far as I know, they're not selling the data to fucking ICE or whatever. But what do I know? I mean, the more libraries are strapped for cash, the more they have to go to third parties to handle record keeping responsibilities of various sorts, and those third parties can do what they want, largely, especially the ones backed by AI. So, um, I don't know. Anyway, they didn't have the fucking book that I needed, so it was a zero sum anyway. All right, so I enter my very secure username and password on the library website, and that was a long tangent. And it starts loading the card
Yes.
catalog page, and then I'm back on the login page. And I try logging in again, and same thing. I'm back on the login page. So,
Oh
right.
no.
So now I have to go find the clear my cookies page in my browser, and I use Chrome, so they hide that shit like way in the back. And to try to clear my cookies for this website so I can log in. Like I don't think my local library is trying to like sell my voice print to Palantir or whatever, but cookies are still directly involved in this, and it's a pain in the ass.
Oh man. I feel like I want to shake a finger at whatever library web developer.
Right.
And it's just set that up.
Yeah, you know, software has bugs. They don't have a lot of money to spend on this stuff. But this is one of the ways I feel like that's the most common type of experience that people have with cookies day to day, at least up until maybe 5 years ago when all these like, do you accept these cookies boxes started popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah.
when they were going to enter this story. The cookie banners that we all know and mostly ignore.
Yeah. That all start with, we care about your privacy. Right.
Yes, I definitely am reading every word of those banners and not just
Yeah.
kind of clicking whatever the minimum I can click in without having to actually go to a separate page and specify which cookies that I care about.
And they set them all up so that they're all different. They set them all up so that your browser can't automatically parse the banner and just set the
Exactly,
things.
exactly.
Yeah.
You have to click through each one of them, which means you don't actually read the
Yep.
the, the banner.
It's really cool.
Right.
Um,
It's
so
fun.
do not track falls apart, which seems on its surface like a bad outcome for privacy, but there's a silver lining in this, which is that from that point on, it's obvious to everyone, the browser vendors, the government, the privacy advocates, that the ad platforms are not going to engage in good faith over third-party cookies and tracking, which, I mean, we can say that they were naive for thinking that a good faith engagement was possible back in 2010. But you have to remember, these are like slick, charismatic Don Draper ad men. They're very persuasive. They'll trick you. Anyway, so the company that applies itself with the most gusto to the task of banning third-party cookies, for my money, is Apple, which I don't take any of this to mean that I'm like pro Apple in any particular way. If you want to hear some of my other opinions about Apple, listen to the wireless headphones episode. But in 2017, Apple introduced a suite of features called intelligent tracking prevention to confuse and frustrate the third-party trackers. And in 2018, they popularized a new standard called Storage Access API. This is a way to give like legitimate third-party applications the ability to set cookies or to store things on your browser while denying access to illegitimate, ad trackers and stuff. Which is pretty cool. So the browsers, like the website's allowed to ask, like, do I have access to store things, and if so, like, how much of what kind of data am I allowed to store for this browser? Worked pretty well.
That's an interesting that I hadn't realized it was quite that early that Apple got into the business of being like the the privacy respecting company.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because at some point that became so much of Apple's brand, like
Hmm.
they were they at some point they realized that this could be, a market differentiator for them. Like we are not going to mine your data and we're going to like try to prevent other finally somebody in the story has some incentive to like not
Right.
maximize the ad company's reach. Um,
Yeah. It's probably a positive development. Uh, and so
or
in
at least
2019,
appear to be respecting privacy. Sorry about
I mean, yeah, I mean, respect, like, can a company respect anything? Really? They don't
right.
have they don't have souls.
They're not people. They're made of people, but they're not.
It happens to currently be in their interest at this point in history to take actions that a person who was respecting your privacy would take. So that's pretty good. That's okay. So in 2019, Safari finally disables third-party cookies by default across the board. 2019. Firefox actually beats Safari to the punch on this by about 3 months, but I would argue only because Apple laid so much of the groundwork for them by coming up with this storage access API and a bunch of other experimental work they did to make it possible to do this.
3% of people who were using Safari were
Yeah,
we're very excited about it, I'm sure.
and it only took 21 years. So hooray!
Yeah. Yeah.
Google, on the other hand, has like kicked and screamed like a toddler at bath time about this third-party cookie thing, which makes sense. They have a hugely popular browser with more than 65% market share, and they also have an enormous stake in this real-time bidding business. And which would get much smaller if you can't do third-party cookies. So, and so they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? They want people to keep using Chrome, so they have to pay lip service to the idea of privacy. If they don't do that, then people switch to other browsers. But at the same time, privacy is like an existential threat to their $200 billion a year business model, right? It's a dagger. So they stall. They've been stalling, trying to like hold on to their market share as long as possible by pitching a series of half measures and compromises that make it look like to the casual observer as if they're taking privacy seriously, but that just run up the clock and never go anywhere. They've done some like pretty innovative engineering that would not need to be done if were simply willing to not allow third-party cookies. But they're placed in the engineering, the R&D department is placed in this position where like the company's business model depends on this having third-party cookies, and they're like, okay, well, how do we act like how do we like
How could we make this a little bit less bad?
right? Yeah, interesting challenge that I wish didn't have to exist for engineering teams. In August of 2019, Google announces this thing called Privacy Sandbox for Chrome. Privacy Sandbox is a collection of experimental Chrome features, many of which have been subsequently phased out, that aim to make ad targeting less intrusive. Phased out, oh, these were experimental. We picked the ones that worked, and we didn't pick them. But it's also an excuse to just not do like say you're going to do something and then not do it later because it didn't work.
It just didn't work out for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know, but the users liked it. The browser, it was not that hard to implement in the browser, but for some reason we just couldn't make it work. I don't know.
Who can say why?
Right. The product manager said, no, it's not going to work. So it disappeared. Product managers are cops. There, I said it. And so Google's justification for most of this privacy sandbox stuff is that, to quote a blog post of theirs from January 2020, by undermining the business model of many ad-supported websites, blunt approaches to cookies encourage the use of opaque techniques such as fingerprinting, which can actually reduce user privacy and control. We believe that we, as a community, can and must do better. So that's bullshit. What they mean by fingerprinting is that, like, instead of instead of the browser, instead of using like voluntarily surrendered cookies to identify you voluntarily, right, in quotes, ad platforms are instead going to use the behavior of your browser, right? They can figure out what version of Firefox you're running, the dimensions of your browser window. They can even use stuff like if your laptop has an accelerometer that the browser has access to, they can use you can use like let the least significant bits on your accelerometer readings to figure out who you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Which sounds like fun engineering to do, but for a shitty reason.
Yeah, it's another one of those like, you're solving a very interesting technical problem. But why?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Oh.
Yeah, a tale as old as time.
The classic trap for a software developer. This job description says like you will be working on these like cutting edge, fascinating technical problems, and you'll make a lot of money doing it, as long as you don't look too hard at what they're actually doing with the results.
Right. Don't ask too many questions about that. It's interesting, right? We nerd sniped you.
Exactly. Now you're really interested in how to, use tiny bits of information from your browser's accelerometer to identify somebody.
It's pretty cool, but it sucks. And so Google's argument is like, well, we can't just disable third-party cookies because then the ad networks, i.e. us, will have to resort to fingerprinting techniques, which would be even more invasive. And like, first of all, many ad networks they're doing it anyway. Like the ad networks are going to do the fingerprinting anyway and have been doing it for years by this time. So, this is no reason not to disable third-party cookies. But more importantly, this is like saying, "Hey, man, we know you hate getting kicked in the head. We empathize with that, and we respect your decision to put on a helmet. But put yourself in our shoes, right? If you wear a helmet, then we're going to have to start using a jackhammer on your skull."
The head kicking has to happen. There's no way
Right.
around that.
What are you
It's
going to kick
so
your own head?
relatable. Oh.
You're not flexible enough for that.
Are you saying you just want to like walk around without getting kicked in the head all the time? Inconceivable.
But
Oh.
then you might not buy things. You're missing the point. So let's talk about some of Chrome's privacy sandbox features because they're pretty interesting and cool, despite being a bad idea.
Might legal.
One of them, right? One of them is called attribution reporting, which is a way for advertisers to track how many people clicked on an ad, how many bought something after clicking the ad, and stuff like that, all without cookies. This has been ditched. There's another system in Privacy Sandbox called Privacy Budget, which is supposed to let a site access a, quote, reasonable amount of data about your browser before getting locked out of further access. Which, is there a reasonable amount of data that I want them to access about my browser? I don't know. But that's the idea. So like a third party could maybe fetch your window size, but after it's fetched your window size, it's used up its privacy budget and it's locked out from further requests for information that it might use to fingerprint you. Right.
Yeah, the whole concept of a privacy budget is funny, just because it's hard to imagine what is the what is the legitimate use case, the legitimate not evil use case for requesting things like the size of your browser window or the most recent whatever 10
Right.
clicks that you made or something.
Right. Yeah, but it's a moot point because they ditched this one too. And then there's a function called protected audience. Protected audience is a way to show ads to a user based on their interests without revealing that user's identity to advertisers. So this hasn't been ditched, but it's been replaced with another thing called Flock, or federated learning of cohorts. Have you heard of Flock?
Heard of it. I don't actually know what it is.
So this
Name
this
rings a bell.
system it's this system where like Chrome keeps track of your browsing activity and uses some opaque algorithm to assign you to a numbered cohort of browsers that have roughly the same kind of things as you, that are doing roughly the same kinds of things as you, and then it's up to the ad platforms to figure out what the cohorts mean and how to target ads to them. Flock has also been ditched.
Talking about this reminds me of a semi. I was talking a little bit earlier about like, well, what is the really like legitimate use case for knowing any of this stuff? There is
Right.
there is one like semi legitimate use case that I know of, which is CAPTCHAs, trying to
Mm.
detect automated traffic. There's this interesting thing that Google came up with called invisible CAPTCHAs, where you don't actually, like, they don't actually ask the user to, solve a puzzle or select some images or anything. Like, the user doesn't actually have to interact with it. Google just, like, looks at your browser activity and,
Uh,
your, how you're like interacting with the website, and assigns you a score of like likelihood of being an automated
they
traffic.
they certify that you're not a bot, basically.
Yeah, they kind of guess like, okay, this is this like person is like clearly kind of like moving slowly around and like not entering stuff programmatically into forms, like this is definitely a human, or like there's
Yeah.
like a lot of wiggle room between there, but you can actually get a pretty decent sense of like whether or not this is a human versus somebody with running with a fleet of like browsers running in VMs,
Hmm. I mean, that's
trying to
that's
hack into your website. Oh.
pretty cool, I guess.
Oh. So there's
I
there's
kind of like
there
that.
is a like semi like not evil application of this technology, or at least defending against other evil instead of
Yeah.
making the evil.
Bots are
Um,
definitely, as a person who's worked for multiple software as a service platforms, I totally appreciate the importance of identifying bots. So I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, but with Flock, it's like, how about we? I've got an idea. How about we like track what you do and then we sell it on an anonymized form of it to the advertisers so they can't track you as an individual. And it's like, I've got an idea. How about you don't? How
what
about
if
you
we just don't
just
do that?
right? Well, it's important to compromise. Um, I, I mean, the amount of technical contortion that Google has been willing to endure just to keep tracking cookies enabled, it would really be impressive if it wasn't so pointless. Anyway, in January of 2020, Google stated on the Chromium blog, which is the open source like core of Chrome, that quote, once these approaches, and they mean privacy sandbox components, once these approaches have addressed the needs of users, publishers, and advertisers, and we have developed the tools to mitigate workarounds, we plan to phase out support for third-party cookies in Chrome. Our intention is to do this within 2 years. So 2 years. Let's see here. That would mean that carry the four. So third-party cookies will be phased out of Chrome by January of 2022. Ah, shit.
Definitely a thing that happened.
Yeah, no dice. They keep pushing it back further and further, stalling and stalling. The rest of the browsers already disabled third-party cookies way back in 2019, but finally in 2025, Google made the exciting announcement that they will not be disabling third-party cookies by default ever.
Well, we all suspected as much, I think.
Oh, sure. Of course. This is how they played the game as far back as 2012 with the W3C conference. In announcing this change, VP of Privacy Sandbox Anthony Chavez wrote that since 2019, quote, the adoption of privacy enhancing technologies has accelerated. New opportunities to safeguard and secure people's browsing experiences with AI have emerged, and the regulatory landscape around the world has evolved considerably. So, isn't that great news? The problem has solved itself, and we get to keep our precious third-party cookies that we love so much. What a relief.
Yes, we've solved the problem without really doing anything about it.
Mhm.
Just by kind of letting it go on until everybody got used to this being the default state of the web.
Right? We solved the problem that we thought more people might leave our browser. Um,
We
Problem
thought we might lose
solved.
browser share, which would compromise our ability to mine data about you.
Great news. Great news. Uh, all right. Well, having learned about all of this, I'm gonna try. So I've already switched to Safari on my phone. I might try switching to Safari on my laptop. I don't know. I got a lot of cookies in Chrome, so I might. But I'm gonna give it a shot. But I'm just so sick of. I'm sick of playing different kinds of keep away every year with the vampire of the ad industry and having to you have to like stay informed of what all the evil shit all the browsers are doing in order to control your own all I want to do is have a browser that I can use to go to a website, right?
I will say, as a Safari user, one fun thing that you will get to learn is what all websites don't really work very well on Safari.
I just tried to load this to record this podcast in Safari because my microphone wasn't working in Chrome at first, so I tried to load it in Safari and it said it doesn't work in Safari.
Yeah, yeah. Safari hates this website.
Sweet.
Or this website hates Safari, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it does store 15 gigabytes of cookies, so who can blame it? I feel like, I don't know, tell me if this is crazy. If I load a web page and there are empty rectangles on the web page, what if I could have like right of first refusal on the rectangles, right? Like I could tell my browser I'm willing to spend a certain amount of money per website per month, right? I say I'm willing to spend this much money on like The Verge and this much money on TechCrunch or whatever. And then, you know, it could just buy the rectangles before the ad networks have a chance to sell them, and I could fill them with pictures of whatever I want. Like I could tell my browser send cute pictures of my dog or like art or whatever I want, and just like had display that instead of the ads, or just leave them blank. That'd be fine too, right? Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
cool?
that would be cool. I'm honestly really sad that like micropayments never really kind of hit like had a sort of like implementation that actually makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I have this kind of back and forth a lot when it comes to like disabling third party cookies and using ad blockers where I'm like I do want to, you know, if I'm you know, going to find a recipe for chicken tortilla soup or whatever, like I want that person to whose recipe I use to make money off of it. Like I want to support
absolutely.
them. And it sucks that the only option I have for doing that is through advertisements. Like
I'd I'd love to be able to send that
I would
person the
just
microtransaction to replace
send
the
them
ad at
some
the top of
money.
the page
Yeah.
with it. Right. They get the money. I get the content. That's all that needs to happen. You know, why do you have to have this extra middleman in the process? I would love to be, in fact, I would love to be able to send money to the recipe website to replace the top rectangle on their page with a link to the anchor of the actual recipe text so that I don't have to scroll down 50 pages.
I feel similarly a little bit bad. I started recently using like a recipe manager that will like
Mhm.
grab the recipe from the website and import it into software, and then kind of like got myself thinking like, oh man, this is actually kind of mean to like the recipe website producers because I'm not going to the website every time I use the recipe and giving them ad
Absolutely.
impressions. But
There's no
also
ethical consumption under capitalism, CJ. I'm sorry to inform you.
my I feel like all my examples are very recipe centric.
I mean, yeah. Recipes are great. I use Paprika also, which is a recipe management tool,
Hey, that's what I used
and
to.
it changed. It changed. You know, it makes it so much easier to cook
It
now,
does.
because I have ADHD and I can't be constantly like dealing with moving the page around when the different ads load or like moving it up or down if there's a particularly distracting one. Then I can't cook. Right? I lose track of what I'm doing in the kitchen.
Page re-renders, and now the ingredients are, you know,
Right?
several inches away from where they were.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Um,
It's awful. Well, that's that for cookies. One of the many reasons that we can't have nice things on the web. Um,
if
I
only there was a recipe for privacy-free cookies. I'm just gonna keep using this metaphor until it just won't hold up anymore.
bake it at 350 until it stops smelling like shit. CJ, it's been a pleasure to talk shit about technology with you as always. I love that you're on this show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I learned so much about cookies, and even the bad kind of cookies are fascinating little bits of technology.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, it's too bad they're used for evil. All right. Well, if you like this show, and I know you do like this show because you wouldn't have listened all the way to the end of a two-parter on fucking cookies if you didn't like this show, then please go ahead and give us a 5-star review on your podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and subscribe, as they say. Thank you so very much for listening to me and CJ talk shit about cookies. And that's it. Catch you next week, listeners, when I tell you all about fucking Keurig pods on Technology Blows.